Hello, all you sexy single ladies. Adam Lidolce here for our monthly Sexy Confidence Club call. So excited to have you all here. I'm just getting this set up over here. I love doing these. I love being able to connect with all of you. It feels like sometimes when I am creating content and coaching, I don't really have an opportunity to be able to reach so many of you at one time in real time. So it's a really special moment. And for those of you who are new to this session, this is really a half an hour session for you to kind of put everything aside that you are thinking about in other areas of your life, such as your financial goals, your health goals, your maybe challenges you're going through in life, some of your problems that you're having, and really hone in on your love life. Because we all know it's really easy for your love life to take kind of that backseat to everything else going on in our life. So today's topic, so for those of you who are new, the way I've structured these programs, these short talks, is I start with a core topic and then I answer some of the questions. If you're live, you'll be able to ask me questions. And I know this is a little bit earlier than it typically is. So I'm sorry if some of you weren't able to make it, but you'll, of course, be able to see this recording. And then I'll answer any questions that I've received either from the forum or you have asked me within the membership site itself. So this month's session is all about this word clingy. And because what's been happening lately is I've been getting a lot of questions from you women out there saying that you're getting accused of being clingy or that you feel like you're coming on too strong. And I understand this. I understand that fear because I think we all know that clinginess is not necessarily the most attractive trait in the world. If you've ever been out with a guy who you would consider to be clingy, it is usually the death of attraction. Because once you've kind of categorized that person as clingy, then suddenly their value is pretty much gone. And you think to yourself, well, I'm not really into this. I'm not really attracted to that person. The same thing does go with men as well. But I wanted to dive into this topic because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to this particular thing. Excuse me. Sorry, gotta step up here. Apologies. There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to that word and what it really means. So when I think of clinginess, I really want to think of the two different ways where clinginess is a problem. So let's start with the first way, which is he is the problem, all right? Or the person that you're dating is the problem. Whenever you are dating someone and a guy and he is not looking for a relationship, once you start conveying the signals that you want a relationship, he may call you clingy, or you might even just feel like you're being clingy. But the reality is he's just not into the relationship. He doesn't want a relationship. He's made it pretty clear throughout the process, through his actions, that he's not interested in much more. And what's happening is you're starting to think that you're just a clingy person, when the reality is that he is actually the problem. He is not investing himself into the relationship, and it's causing you to feel bad. So if you're in a situation where you're seeing a guy and you're feeling like you're the only one putting in the time, you're the only one putting in the energy, you're the only one texting or reaching out to make plans, and you're even finding that there's no progression happening. I mean, this guy is just not making effort to spend time or even meet your family or spend time with you outside of the bedroom, then this isn't a clinginess issue. You're just with a guy who is not interested in anything more than a casual situation. And that sucks. And it's bad news to deliver, but that's the reality of probably what's happening. So this is an example where you're not actually being clingy. It's just have been choosing the wrong types of guys to go after. The weird thing is when you find someone that you really connect with and who wants to be in a relationship with you, who's interested in engaging with you, you'll notice a very different dynamic take place. And he's investing at the same rate that you're investing, and suddenly things start to work. Now, I'll get into it a little bit later in this conversation when you are dating someone and they are investing equally, but you're still coming on too strong. So we'll get to that. The second thing is that some guys are, and I will say this generally, men tend to be more independent than women. And some guys value their independence more than, in my opinion, they should. Now, given I love my independence, and that is one quality of being single that I really appreciate, is the fact that I'm able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and not have anyone telling me what to do. But as you start to engage in a healthy relationship and you get more comfortable with it, you start to realize that that's just not a reality. You are now part of a unit. You are now part of a relationship between two people, and that person depends on you, depends on your actions, and you start to be a little bit more dependent on one another. So if you're finding that you're with a guy and you've been dating for over 6 months, I think 6-month marker is a pretty good one where you should really start becoming more dependent on one another as far as making plans and how you spend your time and your energy and your resources. If you're finding that at this point, he is not willing to spend much time with you, he's not willing to, and that might be he's not willing to see you any more than once a week. He's not willing to text with you more than 2 or 3 times a week. If, let's say, he's not willing to just have a quick check-in once a day, once you're at that 6-month period, I would say that is overly independent. You may want to understand a little bit what the hell's going on there, because you just want maybe a little bit of a check-in. And really, this all comes down to him being inexperienced. And for a lot of you women who might be younger and dating guys who are certainly in their 20s, even early 30s, they just may not know what it's like to be in a relationship. These guys just may not know what it really means in their life. And sometimes they just need you to kind of sit them down and say, look, the way I see, and by the way, this doesn't have to be like a hardcore confrontational moment, but what you can basically say is like, look, I've really enjoyed spending time with you. I've really enjoyed being with you, but the way I see a relationship is, the way I really see this relationship going is, I want to spend more time with you. I want to get to know you further, and I want to really invest more of my energy into this. But I get the feeling from you that you really value your independence. So I'd love to find a way that we could kind of spend a little more time together in a way that really works for both of us. And these are the types of conversations you can have once you do get to that 6-month mark where things are starting to get more serious, and you say, look, we need to figure this out together. And this isn't an issue of being clingy. It's an issue of you guys just understanding each other's expectations. Okay. So now that we have an idea of clinginess when it comes to him being the problem, now let's take a look at this word of, and by the way, I hate this word clingy anyways. I don't like it. And we're going to talk a little bit about what this really, really means. But I titled this program today Clingy because that is common nomenclature for this particular challenge. So first part we talked about is where he is the problem. Second part is where you can work on some areas of your life. And really where this clinginess or this attachment to constantly needing validation or attention, where this comes from is from a few different places. And this is where we're going to, kind of really look into the mirror ourselves and try to understand what's going on here and why this is happening. So the first biggest reason I've always seen throughout my coaching practice of why women tend to hold on for dear life to any man and his time and his energy and are terrified of losing him is because they have this fear of loss. And that could result from childhood. Perhaps you've had a parent where you have lost that parent, or maybe you didn't get enough attention from your parents or your father or your mother in some cases. And what this does is you are now reacting to your past and wanting to retroactive, you're trying to fix that situation in your current relationships, when in reality, the man that you are dating, the man you are seeing, is nothing like your parents. And maybe maybe he is like your father in the sense that you're only going after guys who tend to not actually be there for you, and you're always having to fight to bring back. But a lot of times it comes from a fear of potential loss. The second biggest reason is trust. Whether you've been cheated on or burned in the past, or you've just never had actually a healthy, good relationship, it's easy to think that the more you put in, the more time and energy and emotion and texting and more of yourself you put in, the more he's going to reciprocate. And sometimes that's not the case, especially if it has gotten to a place of being very unhealthy, an unhealthy amount of needing that validation from that guy. Now, this can, again, come from many different places. And if you're finding that this is something that you really struggle with, then you are going to dig deeper, whether it is hiring a coach or seeking therapy to really understand where these feelings come from. It's useful for you to understand some of these tools of why you are acting the way you're acting in these relationships. And sadly, it comes from that fear. Now, that can sometimes be solved when you meet a guy who you do finally truly trust, but most of the time, that can only be solved when you start to really think about and just be aware of why you have this lack of trust in men in a relationship. I am here to tell you on behalf of all men that not all men are cheating, disgusting liars. It's just true. Actually, the vast majority of men that I've met in my life are actually good guys. And the vast majority of guys that I've coached are good guys. Sure, are there a certain percentage of men who cheat, lie, will do anything to get in your pants, never talk to you again? Sure, but it's the minority by far. So where you need to start looking at is this gap in your mind where you think that all men are like this, if this is your challenge, versus reality of what's happening. So then the final reason why you might be a little coming on too strong at the beginning is because you don't believe in the value you add to a relationship. When you realize that you are the prize that he is begging to win, suddenly all of your behaviors moving forward will be consistent with that belief system. When you go into a first date and you realize this guy is going to have to work pretty hard to open up this package and get to know me because I am the prize, not him. I am the prize. And when you are showing low value behavior, or when you look in the mirror and you don't consider yourself a high value woman, when you consider yourself a low value woman, you are going to try your hardest to impress him, to make him think that you are cool or sexy or confident, when in reality, you don't actually believe that. So those are going to come off as clingy behaviors or needy behaviors. And the only way to really overcome this is to work on it, is to every single day invest in yourself, whether that is in your diet. The food you eat is a great way to start valuing yourself, because honestly, when you're eating like shit, you're not going to value yourself. When you're not sleeping well, when you're not taking time for yourself to have fun and be playful and be social, these are the types of things that are going to help you see yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? You fucking rock. You're incredible. If every single day you are waking up eating like shit, not sleeping well, drinking too much, and sleeping with every single guy who gives you any type of attention, you're going to look yourself in the mirror and say, you're low value. You don't deserve much. And then you are going to naturally come off as clingy. So, little dose of reality on this session, and I hope that distinction was really helpful because it's so tricky sometimes with love advice and dating advice as a dating coach, because I've worked with a lot of different people in my life, and some people, every scenario is very different. And if someone's coming off as clingy, sometimes it's the guy's fault because the guy's not giving you enough. Other times it's your fault. Most of the time, it's a little bit of both. So the best I can do is drive some awareness in your behaviors. And the very fact that you're there, the very fact that you're here right now goes to show that you are high value. So thank you so much for being. Oh, and the best part of all of this, I would say, is I talk about this in Attract the One Academy, but Mark Manson is a friend of mine. He's a fellow dating coach, and now he's just like a big writer now. And I've done some interviews with him. If you haven't listened to the interview in the Sexy Confidence Club, I forget which month it is, but it's like maybe month 4. It's a really good one. He's a smart guy. But he had this concept that he used to teach a long time ago. And I love it to this day, and I've never been able to improve on it. So I just cite him and I give him credit for it, which is that if a person is not fuck yes about you, is not just giving you their all, then why would you be giving them your all? Sorry, I'm getting a question from Melissa. So she says, I get confused when I hear this. I consider myself high value, but exhibit low value behavior when I fear losing them. He knows I lead an amazing life. He's just in a tough situation right now. What if they don't have it all to give at the moment? That's a hard situation. It's very hard when you're seeing someone, when you're dating someone, and they're at a time in their life when they're not able to give you everything that you need. And the only way to truly display high value behavior is to set standards for yourself as to what it is you're willing to accept from other people. And it can be easy to fall into this trap and say, yeah, I'm high value, I love myself, blah, 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 but this guy doesn't have everything to give me right now. And I want him to be in my life. I want to be patient. He's going through a lot of stress. He's going through a lot of financial distress right now. But just because a guy's going through financial distress doesn't mean he can't give you his energy and his time. People will use that as a crutch to say that, you know, I've been in that situation. Look, so let me tell a quick story. When I was starting Sexy Confidence, I was transitioning from coaching men to starting this new company, Sexy Confidence. I did very well with my previous work, but I decided to just kind of start all over and invest 100% of my time into starting Sexy Confidence. So it was a very stressful time for me. I had a lot of overhead and a lot of bills to pay in my life. So it wasn't my best financial time, I would say that much, because this is like 8 years ago. I was just getting started, and I didn't realize how much work it would be to build what Sexy Confidence now is. And now I'm so glad I did, but it took a lot. But I was dating a woman at the time, and I would say this. And I was dating a woman, and I always tell her that I don't have enough. I'm too stressed out right now, too much going on in my work. I can't give you my all. But I would say this, is that if I was dating Jessica, who I'm now engaged to at the time, I would have prioritized for that relationship. I just didn't have enough. I just didn't have enough to give her at the time, and I didn't really want to give her much. So, Melissa, I see that you're continuing to message and justifying his behavior. And sure, if a guy is working 7 days a week and he's so tired at the end of the day, he's open to Netflixing and chill, then look, the reality is, you say it will be bad for like a month. Fine. I will say this, give him a month. If it is truly only a month and he says it's a really tough time, fine. But there's no reason why a guy couldn't commit to you and say that let's be in a relationship while he's got all this other stuff going on. A guy could very easily commit to a woman and say, look, I'm not going to sleep with other women. I don't want to be with anyone else. I want to be with you, but just understand that my time will be limited. That would be totally acceptable and totally possible. But I would say that if he is saying, oh, I'm only interested in something casual right now because I don't have enough to give you, that sounds like bullshit to me. And what a high value woman does is sees through that bullshit, even if it's hard, even if it's difficult and very painful, you walk away. And that is the display of high value. The only way to actually set standards for yourself, is to actually set the standards, right? Like if I need to lose weight, which, I've been a little bit of a fatty lately. I've been eating like a little bit of candy the past week. All right. Now I've realized I need to cut it back. So I'm setting a standard for myself and I'm saying, look, I got to go back to clean eating and exercising and my normal, this is my normal homeostasis is being healthy. But if tonight I say, you know what, I'm just going to eat candy again. Well, that's not holding true to my standards. And for you, you have a standard that says, I'm not going to invest my time and energy into a man unless he's doing the same for me. And you, whether you know it or not, are investing your time and energy into him right now because you're thinking about him, talking about him, and waiting for him to come around. When all of that emotional energy could be spent elsewhere with potentially another guy. So look, you're a big girl. You can do whatever you want. You can keep sleeping with him, do that, and see where this all goes. But I'm here to tell you that's not going to be a winning strategy for the long term. And bringing it back to high value, a high value woman says to a man or says to a situation, look, I'm not going to keep sleeping with you. This isn't working for you. This is not the type of person I am. Sure, if you need a month, fine. Take your month, get everything together. You know where to find me. And but just know I might not be available then, right? And don't say that to manipulate them. Don't say that anything because it's true. That should be true. So I hope you see a very important distinction there between those two situations. And I have to get to some of those questions as well. So I've had a few questions here that I really want to jump into. This first one is Kelly. She says, I've watched your videos and I just want to be clear. I've been seeing a great guy for about 6 months and I'm afraid I've done a no-no and I've pushed him away to a point. He admits he has feelings, but says, you get too stressed out. I'm assuming he's referring to me wanting to see him. How can I reel him back to being the chaser he was at the start? So I think, so here's the thing. I'm going to be very clear here. Because I get this question a lot. Once you get to the 6-month phase in a relationship, you don't need to be doing this whole cat and mouse stuff. Chaser, chasey, all that stuff is bullshit by that point, right? Now, at this point, it's just communication. And it's just seeing if you two jive together for the long term. This is a relationship question. This isn't a dating question. Dating is when you're talking to a lot of different guys, you're looking for a good relationship, you're trying to attract the one. Now you're in a relationship, a committed relationship for 6 months, and he's saying you get too stressed out. And then what you're saying back is you're saying, I assume he's referring to me wanting to see him. The very fact that you're using the word I assume means you haven't talked to him enough. And this is where you go from having a teenage relationship to an adult relationship, which is if someone gives you feedback or tells you something, and hopefully, and it's not over text, it's in person, you are actually trying to get to the core of what's going on. So it sounds like you guys need to have a conversation about what you get too stressed out really means, because it could mean a whole lot of things, and understanding what it is that he's really looking for a relationship. What would make him happy? Okay. I think that's a key thing. Kim, all I do is work. I don't go out. The problem is the problem I have is that I'm painfully shy. I actually like 2 guys where I work and they so happen to be on the same dating site that I'm on. Very scandalous. I message them, but in messages, I don't say, if you want to go out, let me know. The one I see in person, I can't get the urge or the nerve to say anything? How do I go about getting the nerve to let him know I'm interested? The other guy, he's actually using a middleman. All right, I'm not going to get into that second part. We have enough to work with. All right, so for starters, when it comes to online dating, the very fact that you're messaging on online dating is enough of an open window to him to ask you out. If he's not asking you out, don't waste your time or energy on it, because you're on an online dating site. If he were interested in moving forward, he would ask you out. So starting point, don't do anything there. Don't certainly ask him out. Let him take that initiative if he wants. And if he doesn't, fuck him. Next guy, move on. Second thing going on here, which I think is more important, quite frankly, than you worrying about an online dating site with a coworker, which is this concept of how do I get the nerve to go and talk to him so that he knows I'm interested? That was the question. And this is something where I think a lot of women get caught up on, is putting this pressure on yourself. And I can tell you're an introvert. I've worked with a lot of introverts in my life. Putting all this pressure on yourself that says, if I go talk to him, it has to be in order to get him to be interested, or in order to flirt with him, or in order to ask him out. Now what you're doing is putting all of this pressure on the situation rather than just calling it what it is. Just go have a conversation with him. Just go say hi. Ask him about his weekend. Ask him if maybe you get a couple coworkers together and you walk by strategically, walk by his cubicle, or let's say you work at a restaurant or whatever, and ask him if he wants to go out for lunch. Join you guys for lunch. There's no reason why you have to be putting all this pressure on yourself to make a guy like you who you've never actually talked to in real life. Tomorrow, I challenge you to just walk by him and just say, hey, how's it going? How's your week been so far? Just very simple, baby steps. And I know it can be hard. I know it can be challenging. I've been teaching this stuff for a long time. And the worst thing you can do is put all this pressure on yourself that says, I'm either going to go for it and make him totally attracted to me the first time we ever talk, and that can be a lot of pressure. What I would recommend is just getting comfortable with just some basic conversation with the guy. And then you can kind of, as that develops a little bit, if it develops, maybe you'll find out you don't even like this guy. You've never talked to him. So just give it a little time, say hello, ask him about his weekend, ask him about his week, just some basic 101 stuff. And finally, don't forget to smile. Smiling is key. This next question is from Losa. The guy I'm seeing says he's not ready for a relationship and says things to me like, I do still love you. You said, and then Losa said, I hate these words because to me it says, I do still love you, but can I tell him how these words make me feel? No. The reality is, you said you're seeing a guy who's not ready for a relationship. So he's already told you what it means. It means you're not in a relationship with this guy. He is giving you all of the information you could ever need on this planet, which is, I don't want a relationship. I don't want it. And maybe under pressure, he feels like he has to tell you, I do still love you, but I'm not ready for a relationship. Basically, in man talk, what that means is, I love you, but I want to keep my options open to have sex with other women. And you are a high value woman. You don't accept that shit, and no more. All right. Why would you waste his time telling him how these words make you feel? He doesn't care. Like, this is just like a rant moment, because I guess I'm getting a little tired of women like yourself who are wasting your time on these knuckleheads who don't care. Move on. The best way to tell them how those words make you feel, don't respond to them. Move on. Okay? I'm going to take one last question. Well, there's another question which is related. It's from Elizabeth. When a man doesn't devote any time or energy towards chasing the woman, should you tell him to get lost? Yes. I think that's the theme of this half an hour or hour session, is if he's not investing in you, don't invest in him. That's it. All right. And then the final question is from Joanne. I have a question to ask you. Is flirting with older men the same as flirting with younger men? No, it's not the same. I would say flirting with younger men is going to be much more playful, higher energy than, and it depends again on what age group. But if you're meeting guys in their 20s versus guys in their 40s, guys in their 20s is going to be more like upbeat, more playful, more engaging. Whereas a guy in his 40s, in a lot of situations, they might be a little bit rusty when it comes to dating. So it would be a very different situation. So awesome. Well, I'm a few minutes over here, so I want to save all of you time here with this final message, which is if a guy is giving you the words, if he's telling you specifically he's not ready for a relationship, and he's showing you those actions as well, then you need to listen. Life is short. And why, with all of the 7 billion people on this planet, would you want to waste another iota of a second with a guy who is not only showing you that he's not into you, but he's also telling you? So no more of it. No more of these questions about how do I get a guy to chase me who doesn't ever want a relationship or want to chase you. And I know it's easy to like look at these situations, say, well, it's complicated because he has told me he loves me, but it's not complicated. High value women don't take bullshit like that. And they don't look at these situations as super complicated because they're not. So moving forward, you have the decision. You can go in and out of these relationships where these guys give you half of themselves, half of their energy, half of their interest, half their time, half their commitment. Or you can take a stand now and say, no more of that. And the weird thing is when you decide to say no more of that, weirdly enough, guys actually are more attracted to you because now you're conveying yourself as high value. It's a crazy thing that happens. So I'm going to leave you on that note, and I cannot wait to speak to all of you sexy single ladies next June. Thank you. Not next June, this upcoming June. Bye-bye.